Hello and welcome to FinTech Talk. I'm your host, Charles Orton-Jones. Today we're looking at how AI is being used in ESG reporting. Now, ESG is a huge concept in finance. Bloomberg Intelligence puts ESG assets at around $30 trillion today, set to pass $40 trillion by the end of the decade. So if AI can give you an edge in understanding ESG, in reporting, in engaging with stakeholders, then it's a really significant concept. Now, this is one of these episodes where I come into it with a huge degree of ignorance. How is AI used in ESG? No idea. But I found a guy who is a world expert on the subject. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my guest today. Nishith Srivastava is the head of ESG reporting at AIA, which is the largest insurer in Asia. He has a wealth of knowledge in ESG reporting, and he is a recognized expert in AI as well. So Nishith, if you turn your camera and mic on, we're going to be talking about what AI is used for in ESG reporting, who builds the models, and how can AI be implemented with the maximum impact while avoiding those horrible pitfalls that AI is known for. If anyone's watching this, you're able to ask a question, stick it in the chat, and I'll ask Nishith. Yeah, feel free to cut loose. You know, the worse the better. We like to ask him some tricky questions. Nishith, lovely to see you, sir.
Thank you very much, Charles, and thanks for having me on this session. So I think maybe let's talk about
I mean, the
AI.
timing's great. I mean, we were looking earlier at sorry, in FinTech Times about just the headlines now that AI is generating in ESG. People are actually starting to notice the fact that AI is being used in ESG. As I said, sorry, FinTech Futures. Here we go. You know, ESG, the dynamic duo revolutionizing sustainable reporting. So, yeah, Nishith, just let's start at the start. You know, what is AI being used for in ESG reporting?
So I think when we look at the use of AI in ESG reporting, first we need to also understand that what is the whole ecosystem of reporting, and how does any organization go about preparing their ESG reports or like sustainability reports. So the first process would be to start as basic as to do a detailed benchmarking of your performance or KPIs that you want to disclose information on. Now, this will come from various regulatory positioning of your data. Like, for example, there might be a local regulator that might be asking you to disclose information. And then there will be a different type of stakeholder group that might be expecting you to disclose information as well. Once you have an understanding of this, then there will be sub-track of how do you prepare this information, where this information is being sourced from in your organization, and so on. And then finally, you end up disclosing the information. So this is like kind of a very simple, straightforward disclosure ecosystem. And when we start looking at the basic component of this disclosure ecosystem, you look at that basic concept, basic component, which is data. Now, the problem with data is that it's quite it's a fragmented data set. It's quite, you can find a lot of inconsistency around it. There are a lot of errors that happen because of the manual management of data systems. And then you do not generally get like, real-time insights of what's happening so that you can develop your corrective action models. So with just this setting a basic scene of how the data travels from one place to another, we look at the AI integration in the whole reporting ecosystem. So straightforward, if I say you will be looking at some of the components of every aspect that I just mentioned, and you will be looking at digitizing that process or digitizing that system. Now, this is the bare minimum where you might have intelligent systems that can help you in management of your data. They can do real-time analysis of your data, and you might set some kind of thresholds which will give you an understanding of what is the type of variance, and do you need to take some corrective action immediately, and so on. So this is like an intelligent data system that you can use to create a full-scale ecosystem of how do you manage information. Now, if we just look at one level out from this data ecosystem, then you are looking at, you have data, but how do you tell the story about that data? Because there is a lot of qualitative aspect to it. You need to capture that information. So to do that, you might want to use some of the AI type models, which are like generative AI models or NLP models that will help you create content around your data and help you to visualize some kind of a story that you are trying to tell with your data. It's like, that storytelling and story building component, which where you can use AI. Third thing might be around looking at your data and then also ensuring that your data is maintained to the highest level of data, like it is having the highest level of data integrity or so. So at that stage, you will be trying to have an auditing mechanism, which is again an AI-powered automated auditing mechanism that can help you ensure that that data is maintaining a very robust level of quality and so on. So this is like just in a very quick overview of how we look at data and preparation of any kind of a disclosure and where we use AI strongly. And then we look at some of the components like um, doing additional work, which is looking at like, what is your peer performance or what are the regulatory aspects that are shaping up your disclosure information. So you can keep a real-time check of how these systems can be integrated so that AI keeps a right set of check and balance on all the type of information that you're preparing. So that is like my short.
That's a crash course, which I needed. And tell me, who takes the lead on this? Because, if you talk to CFOs and accounts teams, the sophistication of modern accounting packages is such that it's what previously we would have called AI. AI feels like an ever-moving term that once we got accustomed to some digital system, we think, well, that's not really AI, but it kind of is. So tell me, who takes the lead on this? And are people doing it within existing accounts packages? I mean, we've actually got a lovely question here, well timed, from Diana Holder. What strategies can be employed to integrate AI solutions within existing ESG data management systems? That's what's going on here. Is this stuff that's being already built into the ESG reporting systems and accounting systems, or is this something new that's being introduced?
So, I mean, I will take a step back and maybe look at the whole ecosystem in which this whole
Mm,
AI has evolved, and then you had a lot of peripheral systems that evolved around digitization. Even we were looking at the digitization of things. So the question that is around what are the strategies that we can take to integrate this whole ecosystem. So that is where, in my view, we need to just understand that what is the different levels of integration that you're looking at. Because, for
mm,
example, uh, if we look at some of the standalone systems which were designed for sustainability or sustainability related disclosures, they were very standalone systems. So they were not necessarily having any kind of a integration with your master ERP systems and different type of systems. So now this is just one level of where you can look at automation of those kind of processes. So either you can explore what type of APIs exist with your existing service provider, and is it
mm.
giving you flexibility to integrate it, and then you can automate that process. Or you can use like AI powered tools which can actually integrate your system, fetch the data, and they can map the data in your existing tool set. So that is just like one level. The second level is that in case if you already have a smart system which is capturing all the data set and information, then you can look at integrating some kind of a hardware system in to enable that automation, which is going a little bit more into extreme automation side, but it just takes very basic component in place. Like for example, if you have smart energy meters, so your electricity data will be captured in real time. So you don't need to rely on a system to or electricity utility company to issue you a bill, but you will be having that real time integration of things. So it is just I always feel that it is good to look at this in a very phased manner where you first identify that what is the type of integration that you are looking at, and then look around a solution that gives you that plugin to integrate that at a major scale. And then obviously I think a large amount of systems that were there, they did not have earlier any kind of generative AI capabilities. So that is something new that you can look at, and that will be quite useful when you are planning to prepare any kind of a disclosure or strategy or so. And
Wow, that's a complicated ecosystem, though. I mean, how much work of this can people take in-house? You talk about, just using third-party apps with API plugins. Is it just too ambitious for people to try and do this in-house, or pointless because there's such a varied ecosystem now of AI enhanced providers who can, uplift ESG reporting systems and accounting systems? Is there any room to do this in-house?
Just to come back to your point, which you earlier were making, so I think that was largely around who all might be the large players that are in the
Mm.
market and
Yeah.
how do we benefit from them. So there are a lot of so first you need to define where do you want your organization to be. So the reason for this statement is that are you looking for an enterprise grade, very massive system? So you will have all the large giants that are offering any kind of a service, including like all top 10 service providers or top 10 IT companies. They all have a solution system starting from all the way from IBM going all the way to Microsoft. Um, so are you looking for a enterprise scale solution, or you are just wanting to solve a small problem that you might be facing when you are you are
Mm.
a independent like or an individual sustainability team member who wants to solve some of these challenges by putting some levels of automation and digitization in the way you do things, and then also looking at use of AI in solving those problems. So I think then you have like very basic systems which exist in market. They are all now, everyone is marketing the whole package as like AI powered. But like I think there are enough related like large players which have a very economical commercial offering that you can refer to. And I mean, it's very easy to integrate those kind of solutions in your system. You just need to, everything is just you need to write in conversational language so it can prepare systems for you, it can manage it for you. Some of the players recently I was reviewing are you can even build your own AI powered small scale apps which you can use for
Mm.
keeping real-time analysis, or like you can keep it in real time and you can keep analyzing the information, data sets, etc. as it goes.
Gosh, there's a lot to consider there. And just tell me about, I mean, I'm going to assume, therefore, that this is much more applicable to large companies with difficult sets of data, multiple subsidiaries, difficult to consolidate, different accounting sets. Is that correct? That AI is much, we're talking about enterprises here. We're not talking about SMEs exactly.
So I think no, probably we need to look at this from a full-scale SME ecosystem. It's not only large enterprise level organizations trying to integrate these things. So the reason for that is because if you are even a small scale industry, you can benefit from measuring the data anyways. So that will help you. So in case if you're a company and CEO of a company and you do not know that at a higher scale that what is your energy consumption? Maybe you are not that small, but you're not that big either that if you can save a $10,000 bill a year, so it might impact your P&L directly. So basically, I mean, I used to put it in a very simple way, which is in the lines of um, triple M approach, which is measure, monitor, and monetize.
Hmm.
So AI just adds one level of layering on top of it. So that's why even if you're a small player, you can measure the things, and then you can start process efficiencies and enhancing the processes that you have. But then again, it goes back all the way to, do you have the right data? You have right data integrity there, and then to do that, you can use the most basic AI auditing programs, which are very basic in nature. They just will tell you that how different you are from the existing trend of information. So it can give you
Ooh.
analysis and things like that. So let us say last year you submitted just simple line item electricity consumption of some of your unit, and then this year you are submitting the same thing, and suddenly there is a spike of 15% or 20%. So
Hmm.
these can be like complex systems, but then just using the AI system can help you in real time do these kind of analysis and give you a right flag that you need to take action to, maybe there is something which you are not aware of and it is still going wrong. So those kind of things can be very useful when irrespective of the size of the organization.
That's great. And just talk about the frequency there. You mentioned real time. I mean, in times gone by, reports could be issued quarterly or more likely annually, just because it's so time consuming to put them together. Whereas AI surely, because it's automated and takes the burden away from human intervention, means you can have almost real-time dashboards, which are helpful not just for investors, but for the company itself. Is that what people should be aiming for? Is that, I mean, overkill, providing real-time ESG data?
So I think it depends on what is the use of that data.
Mm,
Is it you are using that data for your internal enhancement and improvement, and it might be you are planning to publicize that data by giving access to your investors for your real-time information. But then that I think it also ends up becoming like, a double-edged sword. So you need to be mindful of what information or so you might be using and how those information sets are being used by the any other party that you might be giving that access to.
okay. Can I ask you about generative AI? Because, I'm a journalist by profession, and I think ChatGPT is going to put me out of a job. Its ability to ingest information and write colorful, creative articles is wonderful. But I'm not out of a job yet because it tends to hallucinate things, as we know. It invents quotes, it invents citations, and even if you interrogate it and say, "Did you make that up?" it will deny it furiously, even though it's improvised here and there. Is it acceptable to allow generative AIs like DeepSeek and ChatGPT to actually write prose reports as part of the ESG equation? Do you regard it as reliable enough?
So I think that is one of the challenges which probably currently we have in this whole reporting ecosystem, and that is where I said that if you are looking at what type of information you are disclosing, is
Mm,
it very sensitive information? Is it not sensitive? Then the organizations, are you looking at an enterprise level integration of these things? Then obviously you are in full control of how this AI system will train itself.
mm,
But if you're looking at just a very individual, small scale use of these kind of things, then probably it's you are running into the commercial terms of that particular organization that has built this system. So your learning will be used by that organization to train itself, and the AI model will start training itself and then generate information. And then I think you always need to have a human oversight, and that is where the sophistication of how you do things becomes more meaningful. And so it's more about like using AI as a tool to enhance the standard performance that we have as humans. But a complete reliance on AI system, probably I'm not very sure that it might be a great thing to have or not. Depends on, like, it's very contextual thing. But then, in my view, human supervision on AI is quite important, and it should always be there.
okay. Now, I love what you're saying, and it does occur to me that some of the CEOs I know are going to struggle with this. Some of the CFOs too. And I was wondering, this is a bit of a left field question to ask you, whether enterprises should be appointing a chief AI officer to handle things like this, because AI is now touching more parts of the organization than ever. It's exploding in use cases, but it's a fast-moving, tricky technology, whether you're using ChatGPT, whether you're using some sort of, I don't know, neural network or machine learning. And yet I've not seen an explosion of chief AI officers. It's a trend I assume would happen, has not happened. What's your take on this? Should companies be handing this over to a particular AI division with a chief AI officer?
So I will take a stab at this
Mm,
from largely a reporting landscape point of view, and then the reason why I'm saying that I will look at that from a reporting standpoint, because uh, reporting requirements are at times driven by what the market demands you to disclose. So a lot of insight that you build on how this disclosure ecosystem will evolve is based on what the market is demanding. So market demand also comes from various rating indices and some, like, expectations of various investors and so on. So now, with this, just setting the base of my point was that when we are looking at this kind of disclosures, or like, as you said, should there be a chief AI officer? So we are continuously seeing that at least the expectations that different rating indices are having is that they are looking for um, uh, considerations of AI and having a very strong AI policy framework, which has a very clearly and well-defined oversight role of how the AI system should be looked at, the role of ethical AI in positioning your organization, how do you maintain data integrity, data privacy related aspects and concerns that come due to AI. So in my view, role is and will be created if it
Mm.
is in making, and then probably it will suddenly see a spike like that hockey stick curve, and suddenly it's a
Yeah.
that comes and everyone wants to be a chief AI officer.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I think it's something I would love to see. I mean, how many conversations do we have where AI crops up, and most companies are just scrambling, trying to keep up, trying to educate themselves. So, yeah, why not be bold and lead the field, appoint a chief AI officer, and give them resources to give them what they really need. And of course, we've got to discuss the pitfalls here. We have a question from our audience, Armando Rosario. What are the ethical implications of using AI in ESG reporting? I've even seen someone say that AI is so resource consuming that it's potentially unethical to use it. I have my doubts about that because companies are just using AI on the fringes and the overall consumption isn't great. But what's your take on this? Ethical implications of AI?
So ethical implications of AI would be, I mean, if you look at the upfront, uh, purely from a emission standpoint, so you might be having data centers that need to be set up, but then that argument gets to a point nullified, because if you're setting a green data centers, and we are seeing a lot of economies and countries coming up with like green data center manifestos, so that probably might go down like in next few years, because as the world progresses on their net zero and things like that.
Mm,
But then the fundamental ethical points are around, do you use AI, you do not use AI, and so on. So I feel that if you have the right set of governance ecosystem to handle these kind of AI related ethical issues, especially I mean for reporting, then using AI is just to assist you in preparing information which solves a lot of issues which I just highlighted when we just started the conversation. It helps you to make more informed decisions. It helps you to make more structured opinions about things. And then it just empowers you to be ready with the real-time information that you can use for any kind of report preparation or disclosure. So I think that is, yeah, so that is all in all, that probably ethics is always about putting the right set of guardrails and then taking that stand in terms of, are you doing the things ethically or not? But yeah.
okay, let's talk about some other pitfalls. I mean, just something as basic as privacy. If part of your ESG team is uploading data to DeepSeek or even ChatGPT, it's difficult to know exactly where that ends up, how it's being used, whether it's stored, whether it's confidential. And there's even about data jurisdiction. You may have some very rigid policies on which geographical location you keep your data in. And all of a sudden, someone crafty in the AI team has created a massive loophole and shipped your data over to China. So perhaps you just talk us through some of the pitfalls here.
So largely, I think you have well covered the different type of pitfalls that we are seeing. And then, I mean, if there are pitfalls, there always is like, a structural way to handle those pitfalls. And this is where, like, well, I briefly mentioned about looking at what is your intent when you are planning to use any kind of a AI system. So it's more about, is it an enterprise level system? Because whenever you are having an enterprise level system, there will be a well documented, defined contract negotiation that will happen as part of the
Mm.
process. Your IT teams and the AI or the chief AI officers will be integrated into that conversation. The procurement will work around and craft a contract that ensures all these guardrails are put in place before you sign any kind of agreement to execute your data breach and data privacy. The systems where they, so this is just from a large enterprise point of view response, that this is how the evolution of any new technology or system happens in most of the large organizations. But even after that, I will also put like the other point of view, which is on the failure of your own data systems to protect information, which is like, there are levels of breaches that can happen because of like, continuous levels of hacking and unethical practices that might be going on. But I think largely that aspect gets covered by how strong your organization is looking at integrating the ERMs and developing the right set of guardrails to handle this kind of information. So I think
Mm,
at large, those are like some very high level pitfalls which I see. And then obviously one of the, it's not a pitfall, but it probably is more from a ethical standpoint point of view that if you start excessively relying on AI to prepare your all information, data sets, etc. So then the people who were already doing that job, what happens to them? What is that? That is a more
yeah,
ethical discussion that what do we do with such kind of workforce that might in future start getting like a bit um,
yeah.
not necessarily embedded in the ever changing or ever evolving landscape of things. So I think that is more from that lens. I feel definitely we need to think about it, and then there is a full scale discussion on how do you create a new set of jobs for people who might
Mm.
be impacted by AI. And so, but that is more of a AI and job creation section rather
Well,
than the.
initially, that's a very sensitive point of view. I think most companies, if they can automate and don't worry too much about the job losses. But I think that's going to be an increasingly relevant topic of conversation, though. What do we do with the masses of people laid off by AI? And maybe I'll be one of them when ChatGPT upgrades 4.5 and I'm out of a job as a journalist. I just wanted to mention chatbots to you because in ESG reporting, a lot of companies produce some great tome of an annual review and say to the rest of the world, well, here you go, here's the facts, read that once a year. But of course, I mean, you could have real time with chatbot interface. So if anyone wants to know about an oil company's commitment or an energy company's commitment to ESG values, you could have a voice conversation or type your questions in and get some very intelligent, data-rich answers from a chatbot. Should companies feel obliged to provide this? Is this a good idea? Because chatbots again notoriously glitchy.
I think it's again going back to the fundamental point that why are you preparing and disclosing this information?
Mm,
So is it like this is a conversation that you're having with your investors? This is a conversation that you're having with your general stakeholders or shareholders and so on. So I feel that these things are more demand driven. So in case if there is a specific demand that comes from different set of stakeholders that want to see your information in a more sliced and diced format, so definitely chatbots will pick up. And I feel, but that is like a bit down the line kind of a thing because currently
mm,
we are moving from the standard reporting ecosystem, ensuring that the frameworks globally are getting aligned, which still is not like something which is going to happen in the next few years. So once you have the global system aligned, like your financial ecosystem,
mm,
then the basic report preparation will move a bit more sophisticated, where you will just have only digital reports rather than hard copy reports, which do happen at times in many jurisdictions because of not the company wants to produce them, but also because there is a regulatory obligation for that purpose. So those kind of things will evolve, and then once we stabilize this thing, so it will then just go hand in hand like your financial systems. So in financial systems, we have smart reporting where you can
mm.
prepare, data sets and they get uploaded in some of the smart terminals and things like that. Companies are putting that information in Excel formats for people to just pull out the numbers, information, and so I think we will move in that direction, but then largely this is more in my view that we are first setting the base strongly like in the whole reporting world. Now we, after spending so much time, we now finally have IFRS S1 S2, which is a more aligned climate related disclosure. uh, and then still jurisdictions are localizing it. We still have a timeline by some countries till 29, 2030 or so on. They are going to implement it. Not all have yet acknowledged and accepted that they are going to implement it. So we still are in that area when slow and steady we will probably start making it more sophisticated.
Fabulous. And Ashish, my final question to you to wrap up the episode is how we should put this into context. And we've got AI changing ESG reporting. Is it just one piece of a larger jigsaw, though, that the entire sort of finance and reporting structures are now being revolutionized by AI? And this is just one part of a much bigger trend.
Yeah, certainly. So because this is just one piece of the puzzle,
Mm,
there is a larger ecosystem that still needs the standard manual ways of doing things, which will start becoming more and more sophisticated over a period of time. As I said, the regulatory obligations will get finalized. They will start getting frozen in the
mm,
next few years. We will see that there will be a global alignment on what the disclosure expectations are, especially from a ESG standpoint. Once we reach there, then there will be control ecosystems which will be mandated by governments for ensuring
mm.
that there's the right set of data adequacy and data disclosure integrity. And then from there on, I think no matter what system you have, you will start improving the system and procedural output, because that is where your AI systems will start playing really
Yeah.
massive and major role.
Well, it's going to get bigger and bigger. So I'm so pleased we covered it today. I entered this, Nishith, knowing nothing about AI in ESG reporting, and you have given me a comprehensive masterclass. So, Nishith, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, to everyone watching, I hope that was as valuable for you as it was for me. So, from me, from Nishith, and from the production team at FinTech Talk, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.